with job parameters. So why I'm not, if we take a look here, if we take a look here, we can see that there are so different methods, okay? So we could, for example, here provide a job, okay? If we take a look, we could, for example, launch a job. So we don't have, we just have one job, okay? One Spring Boot job in all our Spring Boot context, okay, application. So that's why we don't need to specify which job we are launching. So for example, if we have two jobs, okay, sales info and let's suppose that report info, okay, we would specify here, okay, we would, for example, specify here. I think there is a, so there is a method here, okay, that we would, okay, specify, or maybe we had to inject, okay. So as we don't have another job, okay, let's just launch it like this using the job, okay, launcher test utils, okay. So now we launch our job, okay, with params, okay. Of course, in your case, let's suppose that you are using hard-coded data, okay. You should just, for example, add, for example, here the file and get the file from your resource, but we are not doing it, okay, because it does not, it's not the testing bad, okay. We are doing the testing good, not testing bad. So now that we launch our job, we need the then, okay, the then cases. So now we launch our job. The first thing that we need to do, we need to assert, okay, we need to do assertions if the job, okay, has completed successfully. So in that order, let's use the JUnit assertions, okay. Let's say like assert equals, okay, where we are going to use the, for example, the exit status, okay, that complete, okay, should be equals, okay, the job execution exit status, okay. So we are asserting this expected one, okay, we are expecting that exit status completed, okay, is equal, okay, this job that we just launched here, the exit status of this job that we just launched here, okay. And yes, for now, let us just test it like this, okay, and let's see what we got here, okay. So let's run our test. Okay, we got some exception here, okay. Oh, my bad, guys. It's not Spring Boot test, okay? It should be Spring Batch test, okay? I didn't see, okay? Now, let's run once again our application. Okay, we got some new exception. Okay, the application could not resolve, okay, the placeholder. So what is this placeholder? I think is, okay, this one here. I think our test is not taking our application property. So in that order, let me, for example, the first approach, okay, the first thing that comes in my mind is to try to use the application property source, okay. So we can just use here class path, okay, like this, and let's say, okay, application dot properties, okay. And now let's run our application. Let's see if we can now, okay, we don't have, okay, that exception anymore, okay. And yes, so what is bad here, guys? This is testing bad. So what is bad here? First, we are using the same application property. This is the production application property, okay. I think it will be very nice if we, in the first place, let's suppose we create a new application property for test. Some people don't like it, but for me, particular, okay, in my particular use case, we should always, okay, let's say we should always separate, okay, the concerns. Okay, so let's use our application property that we just created. Okay, this one. I think we can just delete all this stuff here. Okay, let's just leave it like this. So now let's run our test once again. Okay, we still getting exception, but this time it's another exception. So we got exception, so the job did not complete successfully. So here, okay, we have the exception. So this assertion, okay, is not equal. So in that order, let me just run it in debug, but before, let me go here. Okay, and let's put here a breakpoint. Let's run in debug mode. Okay, now let's go. So what's happening here? The problem here is the fact, okay, that okay, no such file exception. Guys, this is testing bad. This is testing bad. Why? Our application is running already in production. We had the tutorial about conditional flow and we use this application, right? And just now we are testing and we are understanding that this one here is not working. So this step, okay, this tasklet is not working. So it was trying to delete the files that we have in our process directory, but it could not find the directory. I think in the previous video it was working before because we were using the hard-coded, okay, file location. The folder was here, specific here, right? So this is why test-driven development is important. First, you do your test, and then the test fail, just like now. Now we need to implement, okay, the feature, and then run again the test. The test will probably pass, and then we refactor. Okay, so as you can understand, we got the exception here, file not found exception. So guys, as we can see, we need now to have a mean to prepare the process directory. So the best place to do that is in our custom job execution listener, right? So here, you can follow the example here. For example, after job, we are moving the files, okay, to the correct directory, okay, based on the execution status, okay. But before job, we can, for example, create a directory, right? So in that order, I'm just going to use, okay, the job execution in order to get the job parameters, okay. And having the parameter, okay, I can now, for example, get the params, okay, because job parameter has the params, which is map, okay, key value, as we can see here. So now we can just, for example, check, let's suppose that, okay, if the parameters, okay, contains what, okay, the input file name, okay, this is the key, just as we did here, okay, for those who remember the previous video, okay, they understand. So what we are going to do here, so if the job contains, okay, this parameter, okay, this param, this key, okay, then we are going to get, right? So this is the parameter, okay? And yes, for now, I think we can create the new path, okay, by using the job parameter, okay? And I can think that we can rename, okay, we can rename this, for example, as input file, okay, as job parameter, okay, because it will be more clear. So Now we do it like this. Of course, it's a value, okay? It's an object. So in that order, we can get the value, okay? It's a map, okay? So it's a map, okay? We need to get the value, okay? And the value, of course, we need to get it as a string, right? And as we understand that it's input file as a job parameter, what we need to do here is, for example, as we are getting it as a path, okay, we can just go and get the root, I think. No, we can get the parent, okay? So we can call it by, for example, the input directory, okay, path. Okay, so this is the input directory path. So now what we have to do here is, for example, we need to create now our processed directory. Okay, so in that order, let's just do it like this. I think we can use the paths off. Okay, and let's use the input, okay, directory, and let's say like to file maybe, okay, and then we use once again the file separator, okay, in order to concatenate, okay, with the processed suffix, okay. So this will be our processed directory, okay. So now what we are going to do here is the same, okay. We're just going to do here, if it does not exist, okay, the process directory does not exist, what we are going to do, we are going to create, okay, directory. So we create the processed directory, okay. So having it like this, it's complaining, okay, because we are dealing with Java IO and NIO. It throws checked exception, so we need just to use here the Lombok sneaky throws. Okay, let's run our test. Okay, yes, now let's go to our target and let's check if it will create the processed directory correctly. Okay, so now we can go through the bug like this, as we can see here. Okay, it will create in the target sales info processed. Okay, now let's move to the next breakpoint. Okay, now we are here. So what this file collector is doing is simple. It's just going to this directory here, okay, and will remove all old files that we have just processed. So if we once again refresh it here, we will see, okay, that in action. Okay, so now let's go. Let's move it like this. Okay, and now, for example, let's run our application. Yes, of course it's working. Okay, as we can see here, the test has passed. Okay, and it has removed, okay, all the, let's say, like the previous files, okay, that we have there. But of course we could, for example, I think the best approach is doing this, okay, so this logic here, the file collector, I think would be nice if we had it on our custom job execution lister, but it's just an example, okay, because what I'm trying to tell you guys is that it's removing, okay, before we actually collecting, okay. But in case that we are just trying to show you how to do unit testing, okay, we can accept it like that, okay, because it's working. Okay, we have the process directory here, and yes, so what I'm trying to tell you guys that you should always test first your application, okay, then try to implement the code, make the test pass, okay, and then refactor, okay, your application. So that's why I'm trying to tell you guys testing bad, because Of course, we are learning how to test the Spring Batch application, but in other hand, in previous videos, okay, we were building Spring Batch application without test-driven development. I think we need to give some more assertions, okay? So, for example, as our job, okay, is writing into database, guys, you can sometimes find here file to into Kafka because I was just reusing the job, okay? Actually is into database because as we can see here, we have the JPA item writer, okay? We are writing into database for this particular use case, okay? We are writing into database. The next one, okay, the next video will be the integration test, not the end-to-end. This is end-to-end test, okay? The next one will be integration test, but with Kafka. So I'm just reusing the job. So I told you guys that we are writing into Kafka, into database, right? We need to actually see if we wrote, okay, the data, okay, into database. Of course, our job is complete, but let's try to see if the data is into database, right? So in that order, let's use once again the JUnit, not GUnit, because 5th doesn't know programming. Let's use the JUnit in order to see if we have the data into database. So in that order, the first thing that I'm going to see is how many data, okay, we are reading. So we have here 4, and how we can check if we have the data, okay, into database. So in that order, for my particular approaches, I like to use the JDBC template. I'm just going to inject the JDBC template using the auto-arrive. And the next thing that I'm going to do here, I'm going to use the JDBC template in order to query, okay, if we have some data in our database. So in that order, let me just write here the statement, okay, the select statement, the query, okay, from, and I forgot the database that we are writing, okay, so I'm just going to check, okay, if we have some data. I'm just going to make not select all, actually I'm just going to do the count, okay, aggregation function. I'm gonna count, okay, how many data we have there in our table, and for this case we are expecting four rows, okay, so I'm just going to use the integer. No, there is no need to use a long, okay, and I'm going to say, okay, this is the total, okay, rows insert, okay, this is total rows that we have in our database. So in that order, now I'm going to use the assertion, okay, the JUnit assertion. I'm going to say, okay, I'm expecting 4, okay, that should be equals the total, okay, rows inserted, right? So now let's run once again our test. Oops. So let's run. It passed, okay. Let's run in debug in order to make you guys understand what we are doing here. And we don't need it anymore. So as we can see, when we go to our sales info, the table that we are writing and data that we are reading from files, okay, we can see that we got 4, okay, items, and 4 items, okay, and we made the assertion and it equals, okay, and the test passed. So the next thing, I think the next assertion that we need to do is, for example, I think we can, for example, first use the assertion, okay, and let's say, like, for example, assert true, okay, we are going to tell, okay, that the expected, okay, the processed directory, this processed directory exists, okay? So now we just say it here, okay? We can also, for example, yeah, let's just run in order to see. Okay, it passed, okay? Because if we take a look here, running in debug mode, let me just reload here, okay? If we can see here in our target, we have the sales info, we have the processed, okay, directory, and we can see that the processed, okay, the expected directory, which is this target sales info processed directory, it exists, okay? And as we are doing, let's say, this series in order to move from testing bad to testing good, okay, I think we need one more assertion. We need to not only check if this directory exists, but if we have there the file that we just processed, okay? But let's use the assertions. And in this case will be also, let's say, like asserts true, okay, asserts true. And okay, the first thing that we need to do, we are going to use the files, okay, list, and we are going to use the expected, we are going to use the expect complete directory, okay. And if you guys understand this new all these new Java 8, Java 11 methods from the package Java NIO, okay, I think it's NIO, you will see, let me just check it, yes, it's Java NIO file, okay. If we take a look, this method, okay, this method will list, okay, all the entries, okay, from that directory, okay. So as we expect, it's a list, okay, so we are just going to say, okay, find any or find first, okay, find any, and let we just expect it that to be present, okay. We're just telling, okay, file list, okay, find any that is present, okay. We are just expecting it to be present. Contains, okay, any file. I think it's better, okay. And now let's just use the contains any file, okay. And let's once again run our test, okay. And if we go, we can see, okay, the test pass. So this is very nice, guys. This is very nice. We are testing it good, okay. Of course, we could improve some naming conventions and so on, but remember, guys, before, when I use the Spring, when I mistakenly put here the Spring batch, the Spring Boot test instead of Spring Batch test, okay, it didn't bring for us, okay, the job launcher utils, the job repository test utils, okay. And you just need to take a look here, okay. You will understand that it even provides the step scope test execution listener and job scope test execution listener. So all the pre-configured bins will be provided, okay, will be registered. So guys, so far so good. The next thing that I want to tell you guys is, okay, I want to show you once again, let me just run our application, okay, is the fact that we didn't specify our data source, right? Imagine we are running our test, right? But we didn't specify our data source. So where would we run, okay, this query here, this select statement here, this count, where actually Spring Batch test is getting this data from, where? So the first thing that we have to understand is that sometime, okay, for example here, we have the h2, okay, which is in memory database, okay. The Spring, okay, as we can see, let me just once again, yeah, is the fact, okay, that the Spring is using the h2, okay, which is in memory database, okay, in our test, okay. So before explaining how is it possible, right, using the h2 database, okay, but before we need to understand that I have, okay, I have the dependency also, okay, of h2, and but before explaining it, I want to show you that actually it's using in memory database, okay, it's not using our real database. So because if I go here in our real database, I run, okay, I do the same, okay, I run the same query here, okay. If I run the same query here, we will have different results, okay. I'm running, as you can see, okay, as you can see, I'm running and we have 0, okay. Even if I run our test once again, which will actually evaluate these results here, okay, this one here, we will see, okay, that here we have, let's suppose here 4, okay, but here, okay, we have 0, okay. So it's using in memory database. So before I was actually making a mistake, okay, a mistake that can be very painful if you do it in your company or in your project or even in production, okay. When I use the Spring, okay, boot, yeah, when I use the Spring Boot test annotation, okay, we are using Spring Batch test, okay, but before I tried to use the Spring Boot test. So let's run our application and let's see which result we are going to have. Good, the test is passed, okay. And if we take a look here, loading, okay, loading class, MySQL is deprecated. Okay, the Spring Boot test, okay, is loading all our contexts, okay. So if we take a look now here in our real database, can we see? So can you imagine the reaction of your boss looking that actually the test data is running on your production environment, in your production database or something like that? So this is your boss reaction.
¡Hey! ¡Acá! ¡Empieza a rezar!
So when we run our test, actually Spring will use our, okay, as you can see, we are seeing here the 4. Let me just, for example, here delete, okay. Now let's run, okay, it's 0. Let's run once again our application, okay, it processed, okay, now it's 4, okay. So be careful using, okay, this annotation in your test. So let's remove this annotation, okay, in order to use the h2 embedded database, okay, and data source. Yes, as I was telling you guys, okay, that I have here the h2 dependency, okay, in my class path. For example, if I remove this dependency of h2 database, okay, my test will fail actually, okay. So let me just try to remove these. So let me remove, okay. Now let's run our test, okay. It failed, okay. As we can see, it failed and it's complaining that we need to create, okay, a data source, right? So it needs to create a data source. And some people, when they see it, okay, when they see, okay, we need data source and something like this, the first thing that they can think is by using the Spring Boot test. So if you use the Spring Boot test and you run your test, okay, it will pass. Okay, so be careful. It can be very dangerous. Okay, so how we can solve it? Let's suppose that you don't want to use the H2, okay, but you are still want to use the Spring Boot test in order to load all the context. Okay,